Alright guys, I think my wife's f***ing cheating on me. So I made this app, WifeAlert. And I think she's here. I have to do this fast. She says she's leaving, so that's the garage door, by the way. And if I set a meters distance of say 200 meters and she leaves, it's gonna send me a text message. And I'm gonna find out what the hell's going on here. All right.
Yeah, I think so. But they just practice a lot.
Listen, I gotta go. I'm meeting Eric for tennis, so here's your phone.
Okay.
I want to see that phone.
You're staying here, right?
I want to see that phone.
Yeah, I don't have any plans.
All right, guys. I'm driving. I just got a text. I'm not sure if it's gonna be what I think it is, but the f***.
Now, wasn't that just a complete waste of time and with horrible acting? But one thing that's not fake is the app, which I'm going to show you how to build. Now, it uses 3 different Ionic native plugins. The first is Geolocation, which helps get the phone's current GPS coordinates, and then Geofence, which will help us establish a radius through the range slider that we saw at the beginning of the video. And then also the SMS native plugin, which will help send a text message if that geofence perimeter is broken. So this is a silly app, obviously, maybe of interest to a weird stalker person, but really the value in it is just understanding how to work with different Ionic native components as well as plugins to help build a sort of unique type of app. So remember, this course is a part of the free Ionic course at Constructor.com. Make sure you subscribe here at YouTube if you like seeing silly, stupid shit like that in the beginning. And let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing you want to concern yourself with is to make sure that you have Ionic and Cordova installed. Now, if you don't, please refer to this earlier clip that's a part of this free Ionic course that will show you how to install Ionic 2 and start a project. All right, now once you have both of those things installed, we're gonna go ahead to our console in wherever you store your projects. Mine's in a folder called code, and we'll type in Ionic, start, and then the name of the project. This is gonna be WifeAlert, and then the blank template, and then just --v2 for Ionic 2. So I'm gonna let this run just for a second, and I'll come back. And then once that's done, cd WifeAlert. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is install the Ionic native plugins that we're going to be using, and there's 3 of them, and those 3 are Geolocation, Geofence, and SMS. So the way we do that, instead of typing this all out, I'll type the initial part out actually. So Ionic, plugin, add, and then we add the names of the plugins that we want to add. Now it's not just simply Geofence or plugin or Geolocation and SMS. You have to go to the official documentation of Ionic Native for that particular plugin, and it'll let you know the name. So I'm going to copy and paste this off screen. So I'm going to paste this. So the first one is Cordova-plugin-Geofence, and then Geolocation here, and then the SMS plugin. Hit enter, and it'll take just a moment to install these. All right, good. So geolocation is going to allow us to fetch the phone's current position using GPS. Now Geofence will allow us to define a radius around the GPS coordinates in meters. So it will also allow us to monitor the position and execute some sort of task, such as sending an SMS text message once the fence is broken or entered. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of what we want to do. Okay, now the next step, simply because we're already here in the console, we're going to generate just one page. So apart from the home page that we're going to use, we'll use a second page called active that will be displayed when a geofence has been defined or if it's active. So the way to generate a page, we're going to use Ionic again, G for generate, page, and then the name of the page, we'll name it active. Okay. And now we want to add Android to the project. So I'm going to be building out my project for an Android phone since that's what I own. Now, in order to do that, you have to add Android as a platform with the Cordova CLI. Now, you will need to add either the Android or iOS, depending on what you're currently developing on, as this project is not going to work well, obviously, on a desktop environment. We need to be able to get up and go somewhere just to test it. So for Android, you're going to need Android Studio, which is a huge 1.5 gigabyte download. And it's not that you really need Android Studio, it's just that it contains the Android SDK. And you're also going to need to install Java. So there's a platform guide, though, that gives you all the information that you need for both iOS and Android, depending on which one you're going to add or if you're going to do both. So here is the guide for Android, and it's going to let you know everything you need, the installation requirements. So it's going to need the Java Development Kit, the JDK. Gives you a link for that, lets you know what you need to do. Same thing with the Android SDK. It's going to let you know how to set these environment variable, which you're going to need in order to run this Cordova command to add Android. And then also, here's one for iOS. So it's a little bit lengthy. It can be a pain in the butt to try to get working, but just obviously you have to do it, so there's no getting around this step. Now, once you do have it installed and you think you're ready to go at least, well, we'll go ahead here in the console and type in Cordova platform add, and I'm going to add Android. So what this is going to allow us to do is to connect our phone through USB, and we'll run a command at the very end where we'll run the project and we'll get the app actually running on our phone, so we could test it out that way. So this is going to take a little bit of time, so I'm just going to pause and come back. All right, so if everything went smoothly, or should look something similar to this, certainly there should be no errors or anything that prevents it from being successful here. If you do, just look at what the error is and go to Google, and it will help you. All right, so now the next step, we're going to head over to our editor, and I'm using Visual Studio Code, and we need to go to the home component. So that's located in the source. We go to pages, and you can see we have our two pages here, the one that we generated, which is active, and then we'll go to home and then home.ts. So the first thing we need to do to ensure everything works correctly is to worry about what we need to import now in order to get this working. So we have our two imports already. We also have to add in platform from the Ionic Angular library. So we'll put a comma right here and then space platform. Now, we also have to add in reference to our active page that we imported right there. And then also we have to import our 3 Ionic native plugins. And I'll paste that in up here. So it's Geofence, Geolocation, and SMS from Ionic native right there. All right, so after that, let's now worry about our class homepage right here and everything that goes inside of here. So the first thing, we're going to define just a few properties. So one is going to be a radius of a type number, and by default, we'll make it 100, and this is going to mean meters. So whatever this number here is specified as, that's where our range slider in the future in the template is going to be set at by default when it loads up. Now let's also specify a property for error. We'll just make it of type any and success of type any as well. Okay, so now let's worry about our constructor. So we're already passing in, and this is by default from the CLI that generates it, Nav Controller. We also have to add in platform. So private platform, and we bind it to platform, which we imported up here. All right, so platform, we can use the ready method, and I'm going to paste in just some code here. Actually, instead of pasting in, I will type it out. So this .platform, and we add a ready method. We can see it's right there. And then, and we bind this to inside. We put Geofence, initialize, then, And we in console log Geofence plugin ready. And this, by the way, is code that I grabbed just from the documentation. And if on error, console log error. All right. And so all that's happening here is once the device is ready, which is defined right here in platform ready, then it will start the Geofence plugin through initialize right here. Okay, and then underneath the constructor, we're going to have a quite lengthy method. So this ends just down here. Let me condense things just a little bit. So underneath our constructor, we're gonna have a method called set Geofence, and this will be called when a button is clicked in our template. All right, so it's gonna take an argument of value, and really this is gonna be the radius that we pass in. And inside of here, the first thing we need to do is call geolocation to get our position. So geolocation and get current position, we can see is right here. And inside of here, we pass in an argument, and this is optional, but we want to enable high accuracy. We set this to true because by default it's not. And this will allow us to only return a high accuracy GPS position, which is definitely what we want. And then also we're gonna put then, we'll bind the response here. And then inside of here is where we're going to use our geofence. So we're gonna create 3 variables. So longitude equals response, chords, longitude. And if you're kind of confused about where I'm getting this from, you want to refer back to one of the previous lessons in this course where I show where all this information is coming from based on the documentation. So I'm going to copy this real quick, paste it. We also need latitude, and then also radius. Radius, we're just going to bind to the value that's passed in our method up here. All right. Then we define fence, and this is going to take in several properties of ID. So we can make this ID, the fence ID, to be whatever we want. So I'm just going to call it my Geofence ID 1. Takes in the latitude, and this goes to our latitude variable. Also longitude, also a radius, which is bound to our radius variable, and then also transition type. And this could equal either 1, 2, or 3. And 1 would be if they enter a geofence, then something's gonna happen. 2 is if they leave 1, or 3 is both. So we just want number 2 and for this type of fence, and transition will only be called if they leave. Okay, so additionally, after that, we call geofence add or update, and then it takes in fence, which we defined above it, then on success, this success equals true. And then on error, this error equals failed to add or update the fence. And that's it there. So we'll add our semicolon. And then also geofence on transition received. We're going to subscribe to it and bind a response to, and then in here is where we pass in our text message through SMS. So SMS.send, and this is where we put in a phone number. And it should be a different phone number, obviously, than the device that this app is being run on. And then this is where we pass in any type of the actual text message. So this is the message. It could be, you know, she left the damn fence, something ridiculous. Now also note, if you're running this app for the first time, it's going to request permission. So if she leaves the fence or whoever leaves the fence, it's going to pop up and say, do you want to give this app permission to send a text message, in which case you're like, what the hell's going on here? So you're going to want to run that first. And then also just for your own, this is not a serious app. I hope you don't use it. It will show in their text messages history. So they're like, I never sent this. Okay. Anyhow, once that's done, we'll go ahead and use this Nav Control, and this is defined through the dependency injection by default when the CLI generated this component. We're going to push it to the active page. And let's see, this looks pretty good here so far. Now at the very end, we're going to put, if it's not successful, we're going to catch error. And this is this error equals error. So what this is saying is if the geolocation get current position is not successful, then for whatever reason, we're going to put this, we're bind this error property to the error response. All right, that looks good to me. So let's go ahead and save that. And now let's go ahead and worry about the HTML. So for the home page, we're going to get all of this. So all I'm going to do is paste in this stuff from the written tutorial. And all that's happening here is just we have, our heading tag, WifeAlert. We're going to have like a loader just for aesthetics, interesting. It's going to be animation. And I got that from CodePen, by the way. We have a custom div class bottom container. And then also inside of here, we have our, couple of Ionic components rather, IOM item, and then the range right here. We're using two-way data binding on ng model on something called radius. This, by the way, is defined right here. And then also we're creating a reference called radius val. This gets passed to this button down here on click event, which is being set to our custom lengthy method that we created over here. And this value, it's getting from right here, this radius val, which is in reference to here, dot value. All right, so we're also using some attributes. So we have the min attribute set at 40. So they can't go or specify a distance less than 40 meters. A maximum of 300 meters. Again, you can change all this stuff if you want. Color is set to primary, and we're going to be customizing that, by the way. Pin equals true, so when you touch this range slider, a little pin with the actual number is going to show up. Snaps equals true, and also step equals 20, so you can only go in increments of 20 meters. And that is pretty much it. So we have ngf conditional. If the error property is present, then show the error, and that's it. So let's go ahead and save that, and we'll go ahead also and worry about the SAS here, the CSS file for home. And once again, I'm going to be pasting in just in two different blips, just some CSS rule sets real quickly. Yeah, just this stuff right here. So I'm targeting the ion range and ion item components here for background color. We're setting this to transparent. And you may be wondering, why did I know, or how did I know to do all this? Well, as I was developing this project initially, I was using the Ionic serve-l command so that I could see what it looks like in the browser. And then bit by bit, once I saw what I wanted to change based on the look of the interface, these are the CSS properties and values that I had to define. So, ion range, for example, and ion item had a background color that I just didn't want there. So I set the background color to transparent. I also had to add this because I didn't reference them directly through an ID or a class or anything. So I added important, and it would work. And then also, just small stuff like this, like setting the color from, I think by default it was black, so I set it to white. Item inner, same thing, just adding just some different CSS role sets basically on these different areas. So I'm not going to go through all of these exactly. You can go through them yourself if you wish to understand better what is happening. Okay, also right down here, this you may be wondering, what is that? The little pin that shows up was only showing up when you touched it, but I wanted it to show up indefinitely, like all the time. So I did a search on Google and I found that this is how you make a range pin stay. So again, a lot of the stuff, you just have to Google it if you're trying to figure something out. That won't work. All right, and then also, I found a loading graphic that it was CSS only in CodePen. And so this is where all that HTML that I found that I pasted in. So I just pasted this all in here. By the way, to find all of this, if you're wondering where I'm copying and pasting this from, it's from the written tutorial that's a part of this lesson. So it's right here at this URL. Okay. So once you paste all that in, save it. And then I want to head on over to another SAS file, and that's an app.scss. We're only going to create one CSS rule set here. And I created a custom page class. We're giving it a background color of right there. Save that. And then also we want to go to another one in our theme variables, and we're going to just define a custom primary and secondary value right here. So I pasted those in, and the new values are right here for primary and secondary. And you want to save that as well. Okay, so now we want to focus on the active page. So this is the page that shows up after somebody clicks and it successfully sets a geofence. So that will be under Pages, Active, and Active.ts. So we want to import a couple other things that aren't here or present at the top. So one is to import Geofence and also the home page. I'm going to get rid of this stuff here that's generated automatically. And then inside of our active page class, we're going to create a single method, and that's remove fence. And this is going to be called in the active HTML on a button. And all we're doing is calling geofence.removeAll. That's going to remove all the geofences and then also push them back to the home page right here. Okay, so that's all we need for this component. Now also in the HTML, I'm going to gut all of that and we're going to paste in this. This is actually very similar in structure and style to the home HTML. So we just have our WifeAlert, our loader here, our graphic. We have this time just the Ion label that says monitoring currently activated, and then also a button that we're binding to the remove fence method that we just created. And that's it. So let's save that. And then also finally, we just have to make a couple adjustments to our app.module.ts. And that is we need to import the active page that we generated. Unfortunately, the CLI doesn't do that for us. So we have active page from the directory structure there. And then we also will add it to the declarations right here. And also the entry components right there. All right, so if we're lucky at all, it's going to run as is because we're finished with the development portion. So now we'll go back to our console and my phone is connected. So I'm going to type in Ionic run Android device. So I'm going to go ahead and wait a while for this to run through because the first time you do run it, it does take quite a while. So I'll come right back. All right, so initially it loaded and everything, and when I clicked set geofence, it gave me an error, and that's because I had a typo. I'm not sure if you noticed it when I was typing, but if you did the same thing, I had an error right here, a typo on transition receive. So I fixed that and I ran the command again, and now it works. And initially, once it loads up, it should present you with, if you're running on Android at least, allow WifeAlert to access the device's location. You hit allow, and then you can specify down here with the range slider, the distance in meters, set geofence, and there you go. So now if you're to take your phone and maybe bring along another phone or call somebody who has the other phone that you bound the number to, whoever you're sending that text, Once you exceed, the distance set here in your range, it should send a text message. However, it will prompt them for the first time to allow access to send a text message. All right, guys, so hopefully you enjoyed that free Ionic course. Check out Coursetro.com for more Ionic content, and also subscribe here at YouTube if you haven't yet. All right, I'll see you later.